Or maybe something like, I think we're alone now. Welcome back to the Escape Podcast. Today we're talking about 10 Cloverfield Lane.
But first, be sure to follow us on Instagram at hashtag the Escape Podcast 16.
And if you want to check us out on iTunes, Podomatic, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever else you listen to podcasts, you can do that.
And if you want to check out our older episodes, head on over to YouTube and search the Escape Podcast, movie reviews, and nonsense for all our older episodes.
There's been an attack. I'm not sure yet if it's chemical or nuclear.
Where are we?
Underneath my farmhouse.
What happened to your arm? Were you trying to escape?
I was trying to get in.
There's a woman. She wants me to let her in.
You can't tell her! You're going to get all the guilt!
What was that?
Quiet.
How do we get out of here?
Is that how you thank me for saving your life?
Let me go!
It's good to be back behind the microphone with you, Josh.
Yeah, whatever. So this is a special episode because
Yes.
this was a new movie for Dave. Although he knew what it was going into it, he had never seen it before.
Yes, so I had seen Cloverfield, but I did not ever see this movie. And this is the first time I've ever done an episode about a movie that I had never seen before. So,
Well, let me tell you a little bit about this. This movie was directed by Dan Trachtenberg. It stars John Goodman as Howard, Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Michelle, and John Gallagher Jr. as Emmett. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has a critical score of 90% and an audience score of 79%. It was made on a budget of $14 million and made about $110 million. The film was developed from the script The Cellar. More on that later. The voice of Michelle's boyfriend was provided by Bradley Cooper. According to a map seen in the bonus features, Howard moved into the farmhouse in 1992 and began constructing the bunker in 1993. And finally, other than a few reshoots, the film was shot in chronological order.
interesting. You don't see that too often with movies or TV shows being shot in chronological order. Usually they, do scenes that are in one place at one time and then they don't do it in chronological order like that.
What was the movie with those kids? There was it was a movie of kids, and they purposely shot it in chronological order. Was it The Goonies?
Oh, to get the kids as they age?
No, just to help the kids better...
To better understand the plot and the characters,
they keep it in
maybe?
order. Whatevs.
Was it Stand By Me?
No, I don't think so. I don't care. I lost interest. So, like I was saying, this was Dave's first viewing of this film.
It's true.
So let me ask you a few questions about this, Dave.
Yes.
What did you know about this movie before seeing it?
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
I didn't really even know that it was even connected in any way to Cloverfield. I knew that the title obviously had Cloverfield in it, and I was kind of assuming this might have something to do with it. But I just wasn't sure because, as far as I know, they have the movies have two different directors.
Yeah.
And I didn't know. I didn't know anything.
So you had no expectations of what kind of film it would be?
Right. And before you told me about this movie, I don't even know if I even knew about it.
Okay.
Before watching it. So, I don't know.
What were your thoughts on Howard? What did you think of him?
Well, okay, so it was confusing because I didn't really know what to make of him, honestly.
Which is the goal. Do you feel there's a connection to Cloverfield?
I mean, very minimally, but it's not really obvious or even relevant.
Okay. Do you think it should have been connected to Cloverfield?
Yes.
Okay.
I think so. Because it really helps play into how the movie ends, obviously.
Okay.
I don't know how the movie would have ended without the Cloverfield connection.
Okay. And finally, what do you think happened to Howard's daughters?
Well, I would assume they were all put into the bucket.
All right.
I don't know, but okay, so there was a time in the movie where John Goodman's character says, "I keep this door sealed at all times. No one comes in or out." I think that line really made me think John's character was insanely evil. And for me, that set the stage for my expectations of his character. Like, at that point, I was like, okay, I don't trust this guy. I don't believe anything he's saying. He just wants to be creepy and evil, and he's making up all this stuff about aliens outside just to keep them in the bunker for his evil agenda. So,
Well, why do you think he wanted to keep them in there?
what?
Why did he want to keep them in there?
Why did he want them?
He's just evil? He's just creepy and evil? Like, what was his motivation?
Well, he probably had his two big motivations were, one, letting anyone in or out risks letting someone in with, like, the sickness.
Okay, so just to keep
just to keep isolation,
Okay.
Just to keep isolation, and also he had the weird the thing, like, with his daughter.
Okay, that's more what I was fishing for.
So, like, for instance, it was really creepy when they were playing the games. John Goodman's character couldn't say woman.
Right.
But it kind of plays into his character because that's how he views her as a child, because he's insane. And then the Santa Claus thing during the game, so creepy. I'm always watching you.
Okay.
I mean, those two moments happened back to back. I thought those were two great moments, but they really kind of show just how insane John Goodman's character is. Even if he's also a genius and knows how to make a really good bomb shelter and stock it, and, like, he knows how to run the place, and he knows how to keep the thing going, and, like, he's insane, but he's also incredibly smart.
Well, I mean, there's lots of people throughout history that have had
Yeah, I know.
maybe a good goal, or maybe they've done something good, but maybe in a very twisted way, or they might have something good they've done, but they've also had, some problems.
Yeah.
But let's talk about this. So this is from first-time director Dan Trachtenberg. Now, I knew him...
First-time director that he hadn't directed?
First major motion picture. I think he had done some shorts.
So this was his first major movie.
Right.
Gotcha.
I know him from the Totally Rad Show, which was one of the first YouTube shows I watched. It was three guys. They reviewed movies, TV shows, and video games. And he was
Don't
one
think
of
I
them.
know that one.
Yeah, that was one of the earliest reviews I used to watch. So as soon as I heard it was him and realized it was, in fact, the same guy, I was pretty intrigued, because I remember when I used to watch it got to a point where he wasn't giving his opinions anymore. He was just letting the other two guys talk, and I was like, what's going on here? And then finally they kind of said it was because he was trying to get into the film business, and he didn't want to talk smack about anyone that he might later work with.
I see. Interesting.
So, like I said earlier, the script was originally a psychological thriller titled The Cellar, which was unrelated to Cloverfield. And personally, I kind of have this opinion that maybe, I don't know if it was the studio that didn't have faith in it, or JJ that just wanted to push this. I think somebody thought, well,
let's make it a Cloverfield movie.
Let's trick the audience into thinking,
spine or something.
Let's trick the audience into thinking this has something to do with Cloverfield when it really doesn't and shouldn't. And I mean, I think it was a great movie, and it didn't need to have any connection to Cloverfield, and it really doesn't.
It doesn't until the end. And
even the end doesn't.
Well, here's the thing. The ending was an odd experience because it was like waking up from a nightmare only to find yourself still asleep, experiencing a completely new type of nightmare.
But how was that connected to Cloverfield? It wasn't.
But so it gives me the...
The only thing about it is that it's some strange creatures in both movies. These creatures are unrelated. But...
Well, speaking of that, I will say, from what I can tell, from what I was able to Google, the aliens and the ships in this movie look completely different from the aliens and the ships in the first Cloverfield movie.
Where is there a ship in the first Cloverfield movie?
Isn't there a ship, I thought, at one point?
I don't believe so.
Okay,
it's just the giant monster.
At least the aliens in this movie, unless there's like a different type. I don't know.
It's not.
Okay.
First things first. Okay. Howard's motivations. It's done in such a way where you're constantly having to flip back and forth between wondering if Howard is a psychotic or if he's, in fact, a good Samaritan.
actually looking out
who's
for their best
actually
interests.
right about everything. And I thought he did a really good job where, once she gets hit and she wakes up there's no dialogue for a little bit there for first few minutes. And you're thinking that
really sets the creepiness factor.
it's this girl, it's like Dateline the movie. A girl is held hostage in this, place, and she thinks like, this guy is gonna who knows what.
This movie actually does a really good job of causing the audience to second guess.
Oh yeah, I remember the first time I watched it, I actually thought, wow, Howard's actually right about all this.
But not just John Goodman's character too. Like what's his name? Emmett. Like you don't know if he's taking sides with
See,
John
I never
Goodman,
wondered about
or
him.
what?
But that's interesting that you did. I never wondered about him. I thought
I didn't know whose side he was on for the longest time.
The only thing I thought about Emmett was that if Howard was in fact wrong or lying, that Emmett just believed him. Howard admits that the accident was his fault, and he says it was because he was in such a hurry to get back at the bunker. However, you see at the beginning when she stops for gas, they show Howard, although you don't realize it's him, watching her. Almost like he's shopping, window shopping, so to speak. So he doesn't seem like he's in a hurry for anything. He seems like he's taking his time. He sees her, and then he's following her.
Well, so as far as John Goodman's character goes, yeah, he plays into the creepiness really well, but then at some point in the movie, you see the word help scratched into the window with blood. That's what kind of further confused me about whether or not I can trust John Goodman, because that seemed like this outside element that was happening from some other place in the movie plot to kind of reinforce, to maybe make you think what John Goodman's character is saying is all true.
Well, here's the thing.
So that was what was causing my trust in John Goodman's character to be in limbo.
I'm kind of wondering, okay, you're kind of led to believe when Emmett says, is there anything you wanted to do that you wish you could have done? He has that whole thing about, if I would have known, I would have got a bunch of tattoos. How about you, Howard? Do you have anything you wish you would have done? And Howard says, no. Everything I wanted to do, I did. I built this bunker and I was prepared. Here's the thing, though. We know that he had at least one daughter, replacement daughter, after his real daughter.
Right.
And it was a girl that Emmett said, hey, she was a girl that went to school with my little sister. She went missing. So what I'm thinking is that Howard's wife and daughter were already gone. He wanted a replacement, which makes me wonder, did he build the bunker just to do that? Like, was his real motivation for building the bunker because he believed this attack or whatever was coming? Or did he build the bunker just because he wanted to have a replacement child in a place where she was kind of held hostage there? She couldn't escape.
Did they say, I can't remember if they did this or not, did they say when and where, or not when and where, when and how John Goodman's character's daughter died? And I keep seeing John Goodman's character because I don't remember his
Howard.
character. Is it Howard?
Howard.
Okay. Did they
Howard,
say
Emmett, and Michelle. And that's another thing about this. If this was an episode of a TV show, this would be considered a bottle episode. Almost the entire events of the movie take place in this bunker, except for the bookends, the beginning and the end. There's only 3 characters to contend with. So he says that her mother turned her against me and they left, is what he tells Michelle. He shows Michelle a picture. This is my daughter. And when Emmett sees the picture, he goes, no, this is a girl that went to school with my little sister and she went missing and no one ever found her. So clearly Howard had her as his replacement daughter. Yeah. There was nothing like about sexual desires, or
I wasn't sure about that either.
You're kind of left wondering. I wondered too at first, but
at least for the first half hour,
there was nothing about that. It was really that he just wanted a girl to be his daughter, and he didn't want to think of her as an adult, as a woman. That's why it was so hard for him to say Michelle is a woman. Michelle's a little girl. Michelle's a little princess.
And again, this is what contributed to my confusion overall. I would say, at least for the first 45 minutes of this movie, I didn't even know what the heck I was watching. Like, I really couldn't tell what I was watching. What is this movie? Is it a sci-fi drama? Is it a horror movie? Is it like an action?
I'm of the belief that it's actually like a suspense thriller up until Emmett is finally murdered by Howard. Then it actually becomes a more of a horror movie.
Yeah.
But theme-wise, I was thinking that...
With a dash of sci-fi.
Yeah, well, at the very, very end.
Yeah.
So, theme-wise, I kind of felt like this reminded me a little bit of like Beauty and the Beast or King Kong. And what I mean with that is the Beast, if you watch Beauty and the Beast, whether it's the Disney version or any other classic versions, the whole thing is that the Beast is lonely. He keeps Belle there as a hostage.
I get the analogy.
You know, because he's lonely. And you're kind of sympathize with Howard's loneliness, losing his family, although he's fulfilling that void in a psychotic way.
I guess the reason why Michelle wasn't actually just called Belle because the people making the movie would have thought it was too on the nose.
Well, same thing with King Kong, which is kind of like even King Kong itself makes mention of Beauty and the Beast. The same thing. Kong keeps Faye, and it's like he's holding her hostage, but he also protects her from everything on the island and in the city. Mm-hmm. So in a way, it's kind of like that. He's doing a noble thing of keeping her safe, but the way he's going about it is wrong because he really believes that there is a danger outside, which we don't know the whole time if he's telling the truth or not.
Exactly.
We see these pigs. He shows these pigs.
Oh,
now,
the pigs. Yeah, the pigs. Like that.
That's decomposing pigs.
It was like I was having tallies written on, like a tally board in my mind.
Well, yeah, but what
he's telling the truth? He's not telling the truth.
It's like, but another way you could say, okay, did the pigs just die? And of course they're decomposing. Like,
I don't know.
That doesn't really prove anything.
There's not enough context.
The big thing that kind of helps really support him is one, when they're hearing these noises, these weird sounds.
Yeah.
And then the woman, when Michelle is almost about to break free, she hits him over the head with a bottle. She stole his key. She's running up to there.
Oh my gosh!
She almost gets the door unlocked, and then a car pulls up, and this woman with like sores and boils all over her face, like, is trying to get in, and then she starts hitting her head against the window.
That was another tally mark for John Goodman. So that's telling the truth.
And what's funny is the whole tone shifted after that. So because at first you're really paranoid of him, you think, okay, this guy's clearly a psycho, and then after that they show where like this montage of them like, you know, washing the dishes, goofing around, watching movies, putting puzzles together, and just like almost like a family. So it's really, he did a really good job. I don't know who wrote it. We're crediting, you know, the writer and the director, the acting, all of them. Like, it was a really good job of just really making you never know.
Yes.
Do we trust him? Do we fear him?
I would say overall, it was a satisfying experience to watch this movie. It felt like a 3-course meal. I mean, like, honestly, I sat down, I watched a movie, and for the first 45 minutes, I was getting one kind of movie, and it was like the appetizer. And then throughout the chunk in the middle was like having a nice main course of a completely different type of movie. And then at the end, it ended up being like a horror with a dash of sci-fi, and it's also like a third completely type of movie. It was like a 3-course meal. It was very satisfying.
I like the first two. I like it going from a thriller, a suspense thriller, to a horror. Yeah. But I don't like the very end. But
like
we'll talk about that more later.
It was a very unexpected twist.
So do you notice how he got mad at Emmett for touching Michelle? Michelle looks like she's about to lose her balance. She's on crutches. She goes to almost like lose her balance. Emmett puts his hand on her to help her, and Howard immediately, get your hand off her. Don't ever touch her.
I remember that, yeah.
So
I get it why, too.
Because he's viewing her as his new daughter, and he doesn't like the idea of this boy, so to speak, touching his daughter.
Exactly, yeah.
Later,
exactly it.
She kind of messes with Howard by touching Emmett's hand at the dinner table.
Oh, yeah,
and Howard gets mad about it.
Yeah.
And he even, like, when Emmett's kind of trying to be funny, maybe to make her laugh, Howard, he goes, you know, stop with your jokes. I don't find it funny, neither does Michelle. So he's talking on her behalf a lot. Mm-hmm. And there's this possessiveness about it, you know, where he wants to have that back, that relationship he had with his daughter, but he's unwilling to accept that even if this was his daughter, she's growing up. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's...
He doesn't want her to grow up.
Yeah. You notice that Howard keeps his daughter's favorite magazines.
Yeah.
He keeps her clothes. He watches Pretty in Pink because it was one of her favorite movies. The room Michelle stays in is half painted pink. Uh-huh. And it's also weird. I don't know if it means anything. I noticed...
You know, actually, that could mean because you were wondering about the reason of, like, the timeline and the reason of why the bomb shelter was built. Think about it. If the daughter left in the middle of him constructing this shelter. He could have been painting the room pink in preparation
it was
for the daughter.
it was supposed to be
and then
whoever
the
daughter
left.
Yeah.
And then he stopped painting it pink.
I don't know if it means anything, but when they show her at one point in the room, and you can see the wall where half of it's pink and half of it's like just the grungy,
like cinder
greenish
blocks or
gray.
whatever.
There's two lights.
Yeah.
On the wall. The one light on the pink side, the bulb is still working. The light on the other side, on the grungy side, is burned out. I don't know. It's like...
Was that the scene where he goes in and changes a bulb?
He later does go and change that bulb.
Okay.
But at that point, he doesn't. And it's just kind of...
It is interesting.
I almost just wondered,
it was
like
interesting
a
to look
light
at
and dark side.
aesthetically.
Yeah. Yeah, so he was preparing the room. He wanted it to be as nice for whichever daughter he was going to have.
Yeah. So much going on in this movie. I mean, I feel like there's just so much more going on than what you and I can even talk about. It's just so hard to articulate everything in this movie.
Yeah, but I mean, what I want to know is, prior to the attack, how long was he living there with a daughter?
Just another question.
And how many daughters were there? That's what I want to know. Like, it almost seems to me like once a daughter escaped or disobeyed,
they got the big blue bucket.
well, and then he replaced that daughter. So I'm wondering, how many daughters did he have? Was it just literally one fill-in daughter and Michelle makes number 2?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean...
You talked a little bit about the Santa Claus gag. So what's going on to set the stage here? They're playing, that not Pictionary, what is that? That's...
Was it Guess?
Yeah, it's the guessing game. What's that called?
Isn't it just called Guess? Guess?
No.
No. Clue?
What? No, it's not Clue. Dang it.
Colonel Mustard in the library with a wrench.
Okay, so they're playing...
it's from Jumanji.
Right. They're playing the game where basically... I wish I could remember the name of the game. I can't. Where you get a card. I have to, make you guess the word without saying the word. So...
Secret word.
Sure.
I don't know.
So Emmett just did his, which was Michelle is a little woman, but he can't Howard can't say woman.
Yeah.
Little girl and little princess. So then immediately...
What's the word?
And during this whole scene, this whole segment prior to, you'll see that Michelle has... They were kind of trusting Howard. Things were going well. But then the air filtration system went out.
Right.
And the hatch to go up there was jammed. So that's why Michelle had to crawl through the vents to get there.
Right.
She gets there, she resets the thing, okay, great. And she sees the window, and she sees that from the inside, like you were saying, someone has scratched the word help so that it will read properly from the outside. And there's also blood. She finds an earring at the bottom, which was probably used, scratched into it, help. She goes back and she tells Emmett what she's found, and that's when their trust in Howard and our trust in Howard has now gone back to...
It's shifted again.
Yeah. So that's when we learned...
Back and forth.
That's when we learned that the girl that he showed Michelle and said, this was my daughter, was actually a school friend of his sister's that had disappeared. And we see that she has the exact same earring the class picture that Michelle found.
So, yeah, and again, then, you wonder how many quote-unquote daughters there have been in that bunker.
We later see another picture of a girl, which I can't tell if it's that same girl, but she's wearing the shirt about Paris that Michelle is now wearing. And he even said, this was my daughter's shirt. She loved Paris. So we don't trust him anymore. And immediately...
So creepy.
They start planning this escape. They're going to build a hazmat suit of sorts out of different things. So Emmett has stolen scissors. They stole a box cutter knife, masking tape, shower curtain, all these different things, pop bottles. And that's when he says, I'm always watching. I know what you're doing. I know what you're up to, and all this stuff. And Emmett thinks, like, we're caught.
Yeah.
And Emmett...
It gets so intense there.
It's Emmett's turn to guess. And Michelle interrupts and goes, Santa Claus.
Santa Claus.
And what was funny is how they immediately diffused it. He goes, yeah, Michelle, that was great, except it was Emmett's turn. I'm keeping that point. I thought that was hilarious.
Perfect way to de-escalate.
Yeah.
I'm keeping that.
And but then what's crazy is literally right after, they go to the scene where he calls them both out. They're looking at the hazmat suit. They got it laid out. He calls for them. They stuff it under the mattress. And he's like, shows them this little like compartment that he has hidden that they didn't know about. And that's where the barrel is. He has them drag it out. So you immediately go from thinking he might be right, worrying about, suspicious of him. Then, this game thing about you think he's found them out. Then you find out, oh no, it's just the answer to the question. Then immediately back again, come out here, drag this barrel out. What are you guys doing? And he pulls out the scissors and the tape and the knife. Why'd you guys have these things? I'm not an idiot.
So, speaking to that point, by the way, I just want to say that I thought it was cool that you keep seeing these items, these things that you get introduced to in a subtle way, and then they end up getting used for something. Like they showed this out-of-place looking shower curtain, which ended up becoming the material used to create the suit. And her IV drip pole, the pole with the hook at the beginning of the movie was used, that she used to get her stuff, later became useful in the movie when she was pushing the curtain down the vent. And in the beginning of the movie also, you see all those racks of food. You see that at the beginning of the movie, which later become useful when she's running away, and you see her knock him over to try to obstruct John Goodman while he's chasing her, and it's just like a lot of things that you see, like, oh, that's interesting to look at. That's interesting to look at.
Well,
that's interesting to look at.
There's a lot of
they end
setup.
up getting set up, like they're being used for specific things in the plot.
Well, right, okay, so yeah, there's a lot of stuff you see in the movie that play off later. For instance, right at the beginning of the movie, we see that Michelle has sketches of dresses, and you see like those mannequins that tailors, use, and the measuring tape. So right there, from that scene where she's packing up her bag, we find out we know she does clothes. She makes clothes. We see her grab the bottle of alcohol, but we never really see it again.
Right.
Another payoff is Howard talks about at the beginning, where I can't remember, was it liquid nitrogen or something he was using to spray on his little tin cup to cool the beverage down. And he talked about when he was he learned it from the Navy. When somebody went to the bathroom, they sprayed it on the handle and broke off, so the guy got stuck.
Yeah.
And that pays off where Michelle uses that same technique to break that lock off to get out. What was the other thing? You see the shot when he first takes her bathroom break. Yeah. You see that shower curtain.
And it's so out of place. Like these items, your eyes are drawn to them in some way or another.
Think about this.
And then they end up becoming significant to the plot.
The shower curtain is of a duck wearing a raincoat and an umbrella, and he's being shielded by his raincoat and umbrella from the rain. Yeah. And what's kind of funny is Michelle uses that material to shield herself from the raining down of poison gas. Does that mean something? Yeah. I guess. I don't know. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting things that set up stuff you're going to see later. Yeah. A lot of payoffs, I guess you might say. Yeah. Let's talk about some plot holes.
Okay.
There was a few things I kind of wondered about. So Emmett wasn't supposed to be there. He said he was begging Howard to let him in. In fact, he knows Howard. Emmett helped Howard build the bomb shelter. And I think he hired him to help him with certain things.
Right, okay.
But technically, Emmett was never supposed to be in there. She said something like, because he has his arm in a sling, she goes, "Did Howard do this to you?" He goes, "No, I was trying to get in. I was begging to get in." And then, if you believe Howard, he says that Michelle wasn't supposed to be there. He says that he was in a rush to get back. He said he was trying to pass her, and he caused her to go off in the ditch and saved her by bringing her. Now, I don't believe that, but if we were to believe that, that means really the only person that was supposed to be in that bunker was him.
Right.
Now, you got to wonder, does he have enough food prepared for 3 people? It seemed like he was only planning for 1, but I believe he was planning for 2 because, again, I don't think he seemed in a rush. They show him sitting back watching her when she's pumping gas.
Yeah.
He's not in a rush to go anywhere. He's window shopping. Yeah. He's picking out the perfect girl.
Well, I think maybe he could have been out getting more supplies for the bunker.
He could have. I just kind of wondered about how much he had prepared for the extra person. So really, I think Michelle was, in his mind, Michelle was supposed to be there. Because if not Michelle, it was going to be some other girl he picked. Emmett was not. You notice Emmett didn't have a real room. Michelle got, although it's not the greatest room, she had a room.
Right.
Howard had a room, and Emmett sleeps on the floor of the storage area.
Yeah.
He wasn't supposed to be there.
It's just so messed up to think about. Like, okay, so theoretically, what if, what's John Goodman's
Howard.
Howard. I keep forgetting. Well, theoretically, what if Howard's daughter was there and it was just them two in a bunker together? Like, what does Howard expect is going to happen? She's going to grow up.
Michelle's already grown up.
Right.
He's not prepared to accept that, though.
Right.
You notice, and that's another thing. He was, by him keeping
just thinking about that trait of his character is really creepy.
He kept these magazines that she loved. He watched movies that she loved. He kept clothes of hers and all this stuff.
Too.
It is sad, but what's funny is I didn't feel like they really were trying to make us feel bad for Howard. Like, although, like, in a way I can look at it and feel bad for him.
They did try to make the audience sympathize with Howard.
You think so?
At least I felt like seeing this movie for the first time.
Okay.
There were moments where I was like, "Oh, I kind of feel bad for Howard," and
I could.
But then
yeah,
you learn
if you didn't
more.
go about it the way he did, you almost feel bad
learn
for
more
him.
about what he's doing in that bunker, and then that dissipates quickly.
And I know it's a movie, and you got to have ways to have the plot move forward. But I thought there's no way, as small as this place is, that Michelle and Emmett could have prepared the hazmat suit, and there's a part where they have it laying out on the floor, like how it's going to look all put together. There's no way they could have done that without Howard hearing or walking in on them. The place is so small.
Oh, and then here's another thing. What happened to the shower curtain? Did they just take it and then no one ever had a shower curtain there again? John Goodman didn't say, "Hey, where's the shower curtain?"
No. What had happened was,
I don't remember if they just got a new shower curtain.
Okay, so the reason, here's what happened. She had to go and restart the air filtration system.
Right.
They needed that shower curtain, but they had to have a good reason why they needed him to throw it away so they could dig it out of the trash.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
it's coming back
Emmett says to Howard, "Hey, just a thought, she was around that air filtration system. She might have got a small amount of contamination when she showered. Your bathroom basically might be dirty." So Howard realizes, that kid's probably right. And so he goes and cleans his bathroom. He disposes of the shower curtain. So he probably was prepared enough. Like, he has extra light bulbs and extra things. So I'm sure he stocked up on a few things.
Right.
So he had his own replacement shower curtain, but he threw that one away, which they just fished out.
Gotcha.
With her IV pole.
I remember that now.
Let's talk about this. Is it part of a series, and should it have been? Personally, I think it should not have been, and really, I don't think it is. It has Cloverfield in the name. I personally am thinking either JJ or the studio heads didn't have faith in this small. This would have basically been a small movie about a girl trapped in a bunker with some psychopath. But I kind of wonder
how this movie would have ended, though.
Well, basically just cut the alien part off at the end, and there you go.
Replace it with what?
That she just gets out. That's it.
And leave it at that. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so think about this. Like, they add Cloverfield to the title, and people start, this is connected to Cloverfield. But, again, it's really not. People have tried to come up with supposed connections.
Wait, so has there been an official announcement or, from the people in Hollywood saying, this is a Cloverfield movie? Officially?
I believe if you look up what JJ has to say about it, he calls it a spiritual sequel. In other words, as if to say it's in that same spirit.
That's the same kind of... Okay, yeah. So he said that about Superman Returns, too.
It's like saying, because R2-D2 and C-3PO are in the hieroglyphics in Raiders of the Lost Ark, when Indy's in the temple, when they get the Ark. Okay. So you might say that Indiana Jones is technically a spiritual sequel to Star Wars, which...
Or
that's
the fact that the E.T. aliens are in the Phantom Menace.
Sure.
Those two universes are connected.
Well, heck, even the Neverending Story had Gumby and R2-D2 and C-3PO.
I didn't know that.
And in the background. But anyway, yeah, I just think they didn't have faith in it. I think they thought, but if we slap Cloverfield on there and put some mystery around it, we'll get butts in the seat.
Impression that they think they're seeing a Cloverfield.
Now, I'm not a big horror fan, but it's kind of like Halloween 3. So,
okay,
Halloween 3 has nothing to do with... Is that Jason? No, Michael Myers. There we go.
Right.
All the other movies are all about Michael Myers except for Halloween 3. Even though it shares the title, Halloween, It has nothing to do with Mike Myers. And then once they got to the fourth one and beyond, they carried on with him.
Kind of like how Terminator 4 doesn't really have Arnold Schwarzenegger in it, except for like...
But, I mean, you know, people would think this is connected to Cloverfield, but again, it's really not. And I personally don't think it should have been. Let's talk about the trailer, which is something I usually wouldn't talk about. But this, in my opinion, has one of the best trailers. There's two trailers.
I agree.
The first one is phenomenal. The second one is terrible because the second one gives it away. The second one actually shows the alien spaceship and different things like that, and kind of lets you know that there's this weird, you know, sci-fi element to it. The first one is phenomenal. They use the song, is it Tommy James and the Shodells? Is that it?
I'm not familiar.
They, you know, Crimson Clover.
Yeah.
They also did, I think, We're Alone Now.
Okay.
And they use that version of the song. Fits so well. We're alone now in this bunker, but they have it where as if the record is spinning slowly, you know, and it's just like, it's this super great trailer to build it up. And then the second trailer,
the music slows down.
and it adds this like creepy feel to it. I would put it in here, but we'll just get a copyright thing for using the song.
Man.
It's great.
It's very unsettling.
It's a great trailer. It's one of the best trailers I've ever seen for a movie.
I agree. You see John Goodman from behind, like,
yeah, it starts off kind of funny, and
jukebox.
you'd almost, like, when you see the trailer, you think this is just a family. You know, you don't even realize it's a bunker at first, and all of a sudden the ceiling and everything starts shaking. They show where they're looking up, and then she's crawling through. It's great.
Yes. There's a lot of real unsettling. Speaking of things that are unsettling, there are a lot of things in this movie that are unsettling, like all the things they did to pass the time in the bunker. I thought it was interesting, but every time they showed someone playing a board game or doing a puzzle, I got filled with unsettled anxiety. I absolutely hate board games and puzzles.
It's funny, I'm not a fan of board games either.
I never liked them. Besides, the fact that they had VHSs and DVDs, that's kind of cool.
That's what I would be doing with all my time.
The idea of being trapped in a bunker with board games and puzzles to primarily be the thing that you use to pass the time.
But I bet you after a long time, if you're there for years, eventually you're going to want to play those board games.
Like the scene where he's doing the puzzle and he has a missing piece, that would drive me bananas. Because you can't go out and get, like, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about the music, specifically the blaster beam. Have you ever heard of the blaster beam?
Maybe.
I know you know the blaster beam. So it was created in the late 70s by John Lazelle. I hope I'm saying that name right.
Okay.
And later, it was updated by Craig Huxley, who was a child actor turned musician.
Huxley?
Yes. He played in 2 episodes of Star Trek, one of which he was Captain Kirk's nephew. And he made his own version of the blaster beam, which was used in Star Trek the Motion Picture, Battle Beyond the Stars, 2010, The Year We Make Contact, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, Meteor, and The Black Hole. And the blaster beam is this really crazy looking thing. It's like 12, maybe 15 feet long.
I know the prop. It's a prop, right?
No, it's an instrument. It's a musical instrument. You know the sounds that V'ger makes?
Yeah.
That's the blaster beam.
Really?
And they use the blaster beam in this movie. And it provides this really eerie, otherworldly sound.
It sounds massive.
Which is kind of crazy because it works well for like sci-fi movies like Star Trek with V'ger and Black Hole.
It sounds absolutely massive.
It's kind of a weird choice in this movie.
Yeah.
Personally, I have this crazy idea. I don't know if this would actually work or just in my head it works. I think...
It's in your head canon, as they say.
Yeah. Let's just say Michelle gets out of the bunker and she sees something off in the distance and then just cuts to black. The credits roll, and then there's a secret scene.
Like a post-credit scene?
Post-credit scene, and that's where you see the aliens.
That
so
would be
you could
cool.
almost just pretend it didn't happen, or if you want to, you can just kind of add it in there.
I love the beauty of a post-credit scene.
I love the scene where
they usually can go either way.
Yeah, I love the scene where she speeds out and she's just like, trying to get out of there, and she hits the mailbox, and when it hits the ground, you see the 10 Cloverfield.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that the ending was an odd experience. It was like, because it was so incredibly intense, start to finish. And, a big chunk of that tension is the fact that, again, throughout the movie, the audience is just unsure of what to expect, of what to believe, until the end of like the movie. Like, that's the only point of the movie, when the audience is like, okay, now I know what I know, and I know what is happening without a doubt.
Well, I think if they would have ended the movie without the sci-fi thing, some people would be like, why did you call it Cloverfield?
It would have been left with a mystery.
Before we go to final thoughts, let's hear a word from our sponsor.
Does your microwave always cook your food way too hot? Do your mashed potatoes always end up a hot potato soup? Well, why not try the new MicroMaster 28 from Thermador? With its state-of-the-art smart chip technology, now your mashed potatoes will always come out a mashed magical mmm.
All right, so now let's go to our final thoughts and grade. To me, like I said, I think it's kind of a shame that it wasn't allowed to stand on its own, and it had to be attached to this Cloverfield brand, even though it's not really. You know, I think maybe at the very least we could have heard a throwaway line on the radio about an attack in New York City, because that maybe could have been enough, in my opinion. It's not that I hate the ending, but I definitely think it was unnecessary. And I think the story was really good enough. The whole meat of the story, where she's in there, we don't know who to trust, and whatever, to me was so much better than that ending. And, you know, I'm huge into sci-fi movies, and so for me, that's kind of a weird thing to go that route. You know, they call it Cloverfield, but they don't actually use the Cloverfield monster. If you're going to go that far and say, okay, let's tack on this big sci-fi ending, why wasn't the Cloverfield monster that you saw in the Cloverfield movie? Why is it this totally unrelated flying alien creature that it almost reminds me of what do they call it, the Leviathan or whatever from Avengers that's flying around? He's got like armor on him, and the soldiers like are attached to him, kind of like
in the first Avengers movie.
In the first Avengers movie, but in this, it's
I don't remember what that's called.
Anyway,
I know there's a name. I just don't remember.
Whatevs. But in this one, it's this like, it almost looks like a ship, but then there's like this living part of it, and then it has these like tentacles or cables that detach little like dog soldier creatures, you know?
Yeah.
It just seemed like a weird choice. Again, if you're going to go as so far to say, okay, Cloverfield, then have it be connected to Cloverfield. I know some people say scene where she finds the help thing, there's a piece of mail addressed to Howard on the floor there. And I can't remember the name of the company that it came from, but some people say that company is also is referenced in Cloverfield from 2008. And like that's supposedly that maybe Howard was a part of that company that was researching the monster from Cloverfield, but that's kind of very of a loose thing to me.
So I think this should have been, if they wanted to connect it to Cloverfield, I really think they should have made this thing end as I think this movie should have been a prequel. I think that at the end of the movie, you see her driving off. This movie should have been set in a town like that, but like near New York somewhere. And you could see like maybe in the distance the New York skyline. And you can see like maybe a little bit of a glimpse of what's happening in the distance in New York that we saw happening in the first Cloverfield movie. And then that kind of sets up like maybe the beginning of that movie is the end of this movie.
Maybe. Like in the end when she's driving away and the storm's lightning's flashing, you see a silhouette of another spaceship creature. But, you know, in the end it has great mystery, it has great suspense, it held my attention, and it kept me guessing the entire time.
Yes.
The acting was top-notch. I thought it was... Although a small movie, it never felt like lacking or slow. It kept me on the edge of my seat. I give 10 Cloverfield Lane an A. I
have all the exact same thoughts as you.
Copycat.
No, I'm just dead serious, man.
Poser.
I give it a 10.
Hey, we use letter grades here on the Escape Podcast.
I give it a 10. I give it an A+.
Where's my letter grade versus number grade chart comparison? What are you, Canadian?
I'm going to have Siri translate.
Okay, so you give it an A, that sounds like.
Yeah. A+ can be converted into the 10 letter grade number.
Oh, so you're giving it an A+?
Yeah, I would say A+,
okay.
Man. I mean, I can't find anything in this movie that would... Well, I mean, okay, maybe I'll give it an A and...
Make up your mind.
Okay, so I'll give it an A, and the reason I don't give it an A+ is because of that sci-fi ending, which it did seem out of place.
So what do you think? Was it better or worse with it? It's out of place, but did you still dig it, or do you think all in all you'd rather it be there? Or
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that it was there because it did help explain a lot of like the crazy little things here and that you see throughout the movie leading up to it, like the pigs and the lady outside who's acting like a zombie, and all that stuff. Like without the alien aspect of it, I wonder how those things would have been.
Well,
explained.
hold on though. Howard did say earlier. He said, the Russians are producing some nasty weapons. It could be this group of people. So he's kind of given a possibility that maybe it's not aliens. Maybe it's another country just with a new biological weapon that we just don't know about.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, in any case, I give this movie an A. And but even though I think, like I said, I think the sci-fi element at the end was out of place, I did actually enjoy it. I just wouldn't have done it in quite that same way if I was the director or the writer or the producer or whatever. So,
but I mean, all in all, I think
it felt a little tacked on, last minute.
I'd be interested to know whose call that actually was.
Let's make some calls and find out.
Yeah, we need to know. But
we need answers.
Yeah,
dang it.
Because I mean, the Cloverfield paradox.
Which again, I haven't seen that either. Is that supposed to be the?
I guess if you want to say it is.
If this was part 2, then that's part 3.
I feel okay. This is my personal opinion, and this is not whether or not the Cloverfield paradox is actually good or bad. That's not what I'm talking about right now.
Have you seen it?
I have, but I feel that the Cloverfield paradox is more related to the first Cloverfield movie than this one.
Gotcha.
Where almost like you could really just totally remove 10 Cloverfield Lane out of it and really just say, sort of, there's Cloverfield and there's the Cloverfield paradox.
Interesting,
but. It's also really weird, too. It doesn't really fit into the first Cloverfield movie as well, but they do a little more... Because, the rumor is behind Cloverfield Paradox that it was supposed to be a separate movie as well.
Interesting.
And that it was kind of a last-minute thing. Let's make it connect to Cloverfield. So they kind of inserted this stuff in to try to make it seem like, oh, yeah, it's part of Cloverfield. So... Although it is a little more like Cloverfield, it doesn't seem natural.
Yeah, and so Cloverfield came out when? 2008?
2008.
There was a movie that came out...
I believe.
There was a movie that came out in, I believe, 2009 called... I believe it was called District 9.
Yep. I've seen it.
Always confuse those two movies so much. Like, I know they're completely different movies. I don't remember who directed District 9, but
I can't remember offhand. I know District 9's based off a short film.
In my headcanon, those movies are completely both in the same story, in the same movie, in the same universe, happening in different parts of the world or whatever. I don't know. They're not, but I think it'd be cool if they ever got like some fan fiction writers out there if you want to.
But you don't even know if you like District 9. You never saw it, right?
No, I did see it.
Oh, you did see it?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said you didn't. I apologize.
I did.
I apologize.
Yeah, so... And I hear they're doing a sequel to District 9.
Really?
By the way. Yeah.
Wow.
Like 15 years later.
Oh. It's weird to think that movie's that old now.
I think it's more like 11 or 12, but yeah.
We're on the road to 100.
Yes.
Where we will close the book. Maybe forever.
Maybe. Maybe definitely. But maybe.
Yeah.
Go to 99 and stop.
Yeah. Well, thank you for listening. Feel free to write us an email if you ever want to at escapepodcast16@gmail.com.
I'm constantly checking with the people who run our email department just to see how many emails a day we get that are for me and how many a day we get are for you. People in our staff running the email department.
Subscribe to us on YouTube and leave us a comment on iTunes and follow us on Instagram. That would be appreciated if we...
Yes. Very much. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you, Josh.
Have a good day.
Yes. Goodbye. So how's it going, man?
Well, how are you?
I'm good.
All right.
It's been a hot minute since
I don't care.